I received a letter from Dad. We're giving all to Sophie. I was excluded from the trust meeting. They demanded my car later. My lawyer said, "She's done." I'm Claire Bennett, 33, a financial analyst in Seattle, and this is how my family tried to erase me from our legacy and how I fought back to claim my worth. I crunch numbers for top firms, turning chaos into clarity. My office in Pioneer Square is a small space with a view of the waterfront, a desk cluttered with spreadsheets, and a coffee mug with a faded orca design. I've built a life here, saved $250,000, every cent earned through late nights and sharp focus. But my heart's tied to our family's wealth, a $2 million trust of stocks, properties, and a vacation home in Oregon where I spent childhood summers. Growing up, I was never the favorite. That was my sister, Sophie, 36, charming and spoiled. Mom and Dad, Susan and Charles, saw her as their pride. I thought my hustle would make them proud. Instead, they tried to give her everything, and it broke me. But it also showed me what I'm made of. Sophie was their golden child. Mom, 60, a retired nurse, paid her rent, gushed over her style. Dad, 62, a former accountant who loved his Sunday golf, called her our legacy. They funded her trips, her car, her every whim. Me, I got, "Claire, you're strong." I paid for college at UW with part-time jobs, built my career without their help. My apartment in Belltown is cozy, creaky floors, a thrift store couch, a window framing the city's rainy glow. I'd helped them plenty. $12,000 for their credit card debt, $10,000 for Sophie's car loan, never repaid. Family, right? You give, even when it's one-sided. It started with a letter from Dad, his handwriting shaky on the envelope. I opened it at my kitchen counter, my coffee cooling, Seattle's rain streaking the windows. "We're giving all to Sophie. She's our priority." No greeting, just cold ink. My heart stopped. The trust? $2 million? The Oregon house? I called Mom, my voice trembling. "What's this?" She sighed like I was a bother. "We had a trust meeting. It's settled." "Meeting? When?" I pressed. "Last week," she said. "Didn't want to trouble you." Trouble me? They didn't invite me to my own family's trust discussion. "Why Sophie?" I asked. Dad cut in, gruff. "She needs it more. You're fine in Seattle." Fine? I'd paid their taxes, $15,000, covered Sophie's loan, and now, nothing. I called Sophie, pacing my apartment, the city's hum outside. "You're selling the Oregon house?" I asked. She laughed, that smug tone she always had. "Don't stress, Claire, it's just money." Just money? The porch where I read Nancy Drew? The lake where we swam? "I'm done," I snapped. "No more money for you, any of you." She scoffed. "Whatever, we don't need you." Mom texted later, "You're selfish, Claire, grow up." Selfish? My chest burned, a mix of rage and hurt. I'd been their safety net for years. I locked their bank accounts, stopped my monthly transfers. Done. Sitting in my office, Seattle's rain relentless, the pain cut deep. That trust wasn't just cash, it was my roots, my memories. They'd handed it to Sophie like I was nothing. I called Lisa Hayes, my best friend since we bonded over high school math. She answered, her voice warm. "Claire, what's going on?" I spilled it. The letter, the meeting, Sophie's smirk. My voice cracked, angry 1 second, lost the next. "They betrayed you," Lisa said, blunt. "Protect your money. They'll come for it next." I opened my bank app, $250,000. Safe. Their accounts? I was out. Lisa's words stuck. "They'll come for it." They thought I'd keep bailing them out. They were wrong. I didn't sleep that night, the city's hum, fairy horns, distant bars, keeping me restless. I felt raw, like I'd been carved out, but a spark lit. I'd spent years proving I belonged. No more. I Googled estate lawyers, found one with great reviews, booked a meeting. That trust was my heart, and they'd given it to Sophie. I was done being invisible. Days later, my phone buzzed. Sophie's Facebook post, a selfie by the Oregon house captioned, "New chapter, new legacy, ready to sell." Not a word about me or the $12,000 I'd paid for their debt. Comments poured in. "Congrats, Sophie." "Susan, you raised a queen." Queen? Sophie hadn't worked since her failed boutique. Aunt Diane's like stung. She'd called me family at Easter, sent me a card. Now? Silence. I blocked the post, my hands trembling. Seattle's rain drummed outside my apartment, cold and heavy. They'd erased me from our legacy, made me a stranger to my own past. Mom called while I was in my office, analyzing market trends, spreadsheets glowing. I let it ring twice. "Claire," she said, her voice sharp, "we need $20,000. Trust maintenance for Sophie." "Maintenance? You gave her the trust," I snapped, shoving a stack of reports aside. "I paid $22,000 for your bills. I'm done." She huffed. "You're selfish. It's for family." Family? I'd covered Sophie's car loan, sent monthly gifts. "No," I said, firm. "Sophie's got it." She gasped. "You're heartless." The call ended. Heartless? I'd been their wallet, not their daughter. Rumors spread fast. Aunt Diane texted, "Why hurt your sister?" Cousin Tom called me greedy. Mom had spun it. I was the bitter sister, sabotaging Sophie's future. Future? She was selling our $2 million trust for a quick buck. A colleague, Mark Evans, gave me a look at a client meeting. "Heard family stuff. You okay?" My throat tightened. Their lies were hitting my work, my name. I called Lisa, pacing my office, the skyline gray. "They're trying to ruin me," I said, my voice catching. She was fierce. "They're parasites, Claire. Get a lawyer. Protect your cash." I nodded, staring at my savings on my laptop. $250,000 safe. "What if they want more?" I asked. Lisa's voice was steel. "They will. Be ready." I found Ryan Foster online, an estate lawyer with glowing reviews. We met at a cafe by Pike Place, the smell of coffee and fish mingling. I laid it out. The letter, the trust, Mom's $20,000 demand. Ryan's eyes narrowed, his latte untouched. "Your savings are yours. No joint accounts?" I nodded. $250,000 all mine. He grinned. "They've got no claim, but we'll dig deeper. They sound desperate." He started that day. I called Ms. Taylor, my bank contact. "Any odd moves on my accounts?" I asked. She paused. "Your dad tried accessing your savings last week." My savings? My heart raced. "Block him," I said. She did. They weren't just taking the trust. They were after everything. Then they pushed harder. Sophie and Dad showed up at my office. No warning. Sophie in a designer coat, Dad in a worn jacket, looking tense. "Claire," Sophie said, holding a document, "we need your Tesla $60,000 value." I blinked, stunned, my spreadsheets forgotten. "What?" Dad stepped up. "You used family assets. You owe us." "Oh?" I'd paid their taxes, $15,000. "That's my car," I said, my voice tight. "I owe nothing." Sophie smirked. "You're ruining us. Just hand it over." I laughed, bitter. "You got the trust. Sell that." Dad's face reddened. "You're no daughter of mine." The words cut deep, like a knife I didn't see coming. I pointed to the door. "Get out!" They left, Sophie muttering, Dad silent. Mom mailed a letter, typed and formal. "Claire, you've profited from family wealth. Give the car or we'll sue for misuse." Misuse? I'd save them from foreclosure. I sent it to Ryan. "They're bluffing," he said, "but we'll counter." My apartment felt smaller. Seattle's rain relentless. They'd given Sophie my heritage, now they wanted my car. For what? Her next disaster? Ryan called a week later, his voice sharp. "Claire, we found something big." My pulse spiked. "What?" He explained. Sophie had taken a $300,000 loan for a fashion startup that tanked, using the trust as collateral. Dad co-signed, emailing the bank. Claire's support makes this solid. They'd lied about my involvement, risking my name. Ryan had proof. Loan documents, emails, bank records, a text from Sophie to a friend. Claire's name seals the deal. I felt sick, my hands clenching. They hadn't just cut me out, they'd used me. I needed more. I called Uncle Henry, Mom's brother, the one relative who stayed neutral. We met at a bar by the waterfront, waves lapping, the air salty. "Claire," he said, his voice low, "Sophie's startup's a mess. They're broke, betting on your money to save them." My jaw tightened. Save them? With my savings? "Your mom's obsessed with Sophie's charm," Henry sighed. "They're blind." I thanked him, my mind racing. Sophie wasn't just spoiled, she was reckless, and they'd let her gamble our legacy. I sat in my office, Seattle's lights flickering through the rain. Lisa stopped by bringing wine. "They're imploding," she said, blunt. "You've got evidence. Hit them hard." I nodded, a mix of fear and fire. "I will, but it's gotta sting." Ryan was building a case. I moved my $250,000 to a trust, untouchable. I planned a family dinner at a chic restaurant in Belltown, sleek chandeliers, oak tables, soft piano notes. I invited Mom, Dad, Sophie, Aunt Diane, Uncle Henry, and cousins who'd bought their lies. The invite was warm. "Let's reconnect." They fell for it. Sophie texted, "Smart move, Claire." Mom called, "This means so much." I smirked, silent. They thought I was caving. This wasn't a reunion, it was a reckoning. The dinner was set for 7 p.m. Sophie glided in, her designer purse swinging, all smug. Mom wore pearls, fussing over her. Dad looked worn, his eyes sunken. Uncle Henry gave a cautious nod. Aunt Diane smiled, clueless. Dinner was perfect. Salmon, vintage Pinot Noir, laughter filling the air. Sophie gushed about trust plans. Mom praised her grace. I stayed quiet, picking at my plate, waiting. Dessert arrived. Salted caramel mousse, gold-dusted. I stood, raising my glass. "Thanks for being here," I said, my voice steady despite the knot in my chest. "After the letter, I learned something. Truth cuts deeper than lies." I hit a button, and a projector lit the wall. Sophie's smirk vanished. The first slide showed Sophie's $300,000 loan, the trust as collateral, Dad's co-signature. A default notice, due yesterday. Next emails. Mom to Sophie. Claire won't check. A bank letter demanding payment. Sophie's Facebook post, flaunting the Oregon house. Mom's letter demanding my Tesla, $60,000. "This isn't family," I said, my voice sharp. "It's theft. You gave Sophie my heritage, used my name for your debt." The room went silent. Aunt Diane's spoon clinked. Uncle Henry's jaw tightened. I kept going. My savings, $250,000. My car, locked in a trust. "You'll never touch it," I said. Sophie jumped up, face red. "You're lying," she shouted. Dad mumbled, "Claire, enough," but sank back. Mom's pearls trembled. "You're ruining us." "Ruining them." I pressed on. "One more," I said. A mortgage notice. Sophie had repledged the Oregon house for another $100,000. Foreclosure loomed. "You sold our memories," I said, staring at Sophie. "Now lose yours." Ryan stepped forward, papers in hand. "Claire owes nothing," he said, his voice firm. "We're suing Sophie for fraud, seeking damages." Uncle Henry spoke up. "Sophie, you're a disgrace." Aunt Diane gasped. "Susan, how could you?" Sophie stormed out, cursing. Dad stared at the floor, broken. Mom sobbed, head in hands. "Claire, why?" she whispered. I looked at her, calm but raw inside. "You chose her. Live with it." The cousins sat, stunned. A few nodded, their eyes soft. I'd turned their story upside down. The dinner ended, mousse untouched. I walked into Seattle's rainy night, the cold sharp but freeing. I wasn't carrying their weight anymore. Days later, the bank moved in. Foreclosure hit. The Oregon house, gone. The trust, drained. Dad called, his voice cracked. "Claire, help us," I said. "Ask Sophie." 6 months later, my life soaring. I started my own finance firm in the heart of Seattle, clients pouring in. Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan. I've spoken at global summits called a trailblazer. Sophie's startup collapsed, creditors sued, and she skipped town. Mom and Dad sold their yacht, scraping by in a tiny apartment. They mailed apologies. "We were wrong," Mom wrote. I didn't reply. They chose Sophie with that letter. I chose myself at that dinner. I bought a new apartment in Queen Anne, all glass and city views, with a cozy nook for my books. On the wall, I hung a faded photo of the Oregon house, me, Sophie, Mom, Dad, laughing by the lake. Not for nostalgia, but for what I survived. I posted it online. Family respects your worth, doesn't steal it. Messages flooded in, clients, friends, people who'd been hurt like me. "You gave me strength," one wrote. Lisa threw a housewarming party with cheap wine and loud laughs. We danced, toasted to chosen family. Seattle sparkled outside, mine to claim. I don't hate them. They thought I'd crumble. I didn't. That trust was my heart, and they gave it away. That debt was their trap, and they kept it. When I said, "Ask Sophie," their world fell apart. Mine grew. I'm Claire Bennett, free, building a life they'll never touch.